Hello, we are Group H and we are going to present our business strategy game. First, let's examine the evolution and attractiveness of the footwear industry. We start with the demand analysis. This chart shows the total demand for branded pairs internationally in all four regions. We can see that the demand increased more or less proportionally each year between 5% and 11%. The biggest rise occurred in year 13, probably due to increased competitive intensity. Now, concerning the private label shoes, we can infer from this graph that there was a gap between the demand and offer in all four regions, starting from year 10 until year 15. The demand has been overestimated, especially in year 12 and year 13, where the private label pairs offered were higher than the demand by respectively 46% and 44%. These are huge gaps, but companies reacted to this trend and started to adapt their offer to the demand. The gap decreased until it disappeared in year 16. Now let's analyze the footwear sales in greater depth. First, North America is the region which sold the most shoes from year 10 to year 16 in both branded and private label shoes. Each year the region has known a rise between 3% and 9%, ending the period while selling about 27 million branded pairs and 3 million private label pairs. It represents about 30% of all industry sales. This bar chart brings together all Asia Pacific, Europe, Africa, and Latin America sales from year 10 to year 16 of both branded pairs and private label pairs. When we look closer, especially to the linear curves, both Asia Pacific and Latin America regions have undergone the most significant rise from 12 million of branded pairs shoes sold in year 10 to almost 20 million in year 16. This is 81% increase. Private label pairs have basically experienced the same growth. And regarding Europe, Africa, sales of branded pairs reached more than 23 million in year 16, while they started at 16 million in year 10. This is a 45% increase. Now let's analyze quickly the pricing and SQ rating trends. Regarding the SQ rating average, all four regions have approximately experienced the same growth during the 6-year period, but this is in North America that the style and quality rating is the highest, reaching 7 stars, and followed by Asia Pacific and Latin America, both with 6.6 stars, and finally Europe Africa with 6.5 stars. The internet price has been the greatest in Europe Africa. After having reached a peak, they have been followed by North America by only $2, and then Latin America and Asia Pacific. Concerning the wholesale price, Europe, Africa, and North America took again the lead with average prices of respectively $59.6 and $59.2. Behind them are Latin America at almost $58 and Asia Pacific at $56. Now let's analyze quickly the industry with the five forces. Concerning the supplier power, there has been pressure from wholesale retailers to higher internet prices, as well as the financial cost of motivating employees. So the supplier power was quite hard, as well as the buyer power, because the advertising seemed to lure them. The buyer power was quite high as well because of the free delivery that seemed to be decisive for the internet segment. And concerning the rivalry among existing firms, there has been a fierce competition, and the competition has intensified in number of models up to 500 and the SQ rating up to 9.9 stars. Finally, the leaders actually compensated their low prices up to $50 by large volumes, and they did great scale economies.
So here we can see the evolution and the attractiveness of the footwear industry in several regions. In North America, from year 10 to year 11, we increased our prices to reach the SQ ratio because we chose to invest in production facilities. Our market share stayed quite the same, so from the year 11 to the year 13, we increased both SQ and prices, but market shares start to decrease. That's why on the 14th year, we increased by 15% our SQ rating and decreased price. We also abandoned our private label markets. We continued to decrease our market share because we were on the same segment as the company C, who had better advertising but also better brand image. On the last year, we produced again private label. If we look at Europe and Asia, we can see that we adopt the same strategy from year 10 to year 13, and we slowly increase our price and our SQ rating. We increase our number of models on the year 14. We changed our strategy and decided to produce less model with a better SQ rating and a lower price because we are competing with Team C and E, and market share decreased because Team C and E had better price and better brand image with big investment in advertising. If we see that's Asia and Pacific. If we see on Latin America, we slowly increase our prices and SQ rating from the year 10 to the 30 to the year 13. We also invested more and more throughout this period in advertising and in number of models. We had in this period a lot of inventory, but our market shares stay quite the same. In year 14, we changed our strategy by decreasing our prices and by increasing our SQ rating, but we abandoned the private label segment on year 14, but our market share stays quite the same from the first year to the last year. To conclude, our strategy was differentiated by region, but we decided in all regions to change our strategy by the fifth year. From this period, we started to compete on the same segment as the company E and C, but we failed to gain market share in this segment because of the price competition and the competition on the quality and other components of the SQ rating. We also failed to reach the same brand image as these two companies. We could also invest more in advertising to gain market shares.
On this slide, we can say for our case range, we chose the focus on quality in North America and Asia. In addition, having higher prices on the internet to offer shipping costs has allowed us to have advantage over the number of retailers. One important mistake we made was abandoning the private label, which represented a part of our sales. In general, a lack of advertising was a weakness in our strategy. We lost a lot of market share because of this. In Latin America, on the other hand, good use of advertising has allowed us to maintain decent market shares. Unfortunately, we lack ambitions on the quantities to produce. We could also have produced more. In conclusion, our SQ rating was one of our advantages, but high prices and low use of advertising contribute to the lack of the results.
So now we can take a look at the key resources and capabilities of the footwear industry. So what we can see is that customers want a priority are low prices and a good choice of shoes. Firms compete very firstly in the footwear industry through strong price competition as well as very high marketing expenses. The success factors to master are very good cost efficiency as well as good image and credit rating. The resources and capabilities that firms have in order to do so is having a strategically located production facilities as well as a highly productive workforce.
So from year 10 to year 12, performance figures such as ROE, EPS, or stock price were rising with our global revenue and our number of pairs and market shares. Then it started to plummet, and we were surprised to discover how sales dropped. By analyzing the competitive intelligence report and the performance highlights, we understood where this deviation came from. We opened a new production plant in Latin America to make up for the decreasing figures. From then, it added too many costs, such as building, operating, or production, and we were not able to recover from this area of judgment, and marketing expenses did not change anything.
So now let's talk about the overall experience as a group. First, I would say we really liked playing the game and acting as real managers of the company, but we were more and more sad in discovering our strategy was not successful after 3 years. So regarding wrong assumptions we kept all along the game, I would say first believing that SQ rating was majorly determining the sales, and secondly that the market reality was applying to the game. Errors we did all along the game would be that we were always changing our strategy and doing wrong steps with production facilities, buying and sell, and we did not consider the currency rates, and we were not accurately computing the demand, only considering the wholesale segment for a few years. And things we do not master yet, I would say frankly, the inventory clearance and also the way to improve our image rating. And that's it.
We will now give our feedback on the organization of the lectures, as well as our impressions about the business game. As attending students, we particularly enjoyed the fact that a lot of concepts to understand were based on visual diagrams. They helped us to generalize the concepts and apply it to any kind of companies. Moreover, we thought it was great to have the opportunity to study cases about well-known companies. As non-attending students, we were pleased to discover that all the resources we need were available from Brightspace, We thought that the case studies were complex, and it took us a lot of time working on it every week, but we thought it was a good way to keep the students focused on their task, not letting them forget what they might have learned a few weeks before. A positive aspect we retain from working on the cases is that the methodology became a well-oiled mechanism after a while. On a side note, we think it would have been interesting to have more detailed feedback about the case answers. Regarding the business strategy game, we thought it was an interesting way to develop practical skills as a team. We were lucky to have a group where everyone got involved, and teamwork allowed us to explore many options and adapt to the competition. In addition to that, the short deadlines were a good way to prepare us to real-life conditions. One criticism we could make about the organization of the business game is the short period we could cover, as we feel that a longer period would have allowed us to understand the industry trend better and develop a long-term strategy rather than trying to maximize our year-to-year returns.